Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I'm your host, Darrell Scott, and together we will dive into the lives and careers of the jazz legends who have left a rhythmic imprint on the world. Be prepared to reminisce on the highs and the lows of their musical journey and the trials that sculpted their timeless musical gems. We'll preserve the legacy of these extraordinary maestros and find inspiration in the melodies of their lives. Subscribe now and never miss a beat. Now, let's get to the show. That is a tremendous song. It's a title that, as Carol and I talked before, sometimes I think it's backwards. It's called Sunshine Yellow. She said she just wanted to make it different. She's got a bunch of music that has made the charts, Billboard's charts, smooth jazz charts. She's played a bunch of places, the Berks Jazz Fest in Reading, PA, City Winery in Atlanta. That's just to name a few. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome. That's Carol Albert. Carol, how are you? What's going on today?
Oh, it's the sun's out finally. I even have a title called Sun's Out because, we've had so much rain that when the sun's out, it's kind of a big deal, for me. So I've written a lot of songs about the sun and the rain and, stuff like that.
It's funny that you talk about the sun's out where you are. It's cloudy and somewhat chilly where I am. And I talked to a friend of mine who's in Boston and he works for Berkeley. They have a snow day.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay. I realize here in Cleveland, in 15 minutes, the weather could entirely change. Carol, let's first of all talk about how did you begin to become a pianist, a keyboard player? Are you a keyboard player or a pianist? What is it called now?
I'm both.
Okay.
I'm both. I'm not one of these people that has to stand on ceremony. I mean, I've played all of my life, so I pretty much answer to anything. I do. I mean, it's like you can't be spoiled and work in music all your life. You just kind of get over it.
So I've always found the piano to be a difficult instrument, because a guitar you can play with two hands, saxophone you can play with two hands, bass you can play with two hands. A keyboard or piano you play with two hands, but each finger has to be independent of each other. Was that tough to learn when you were growing up or acquiring your wonderfulness with the piano?
Well, I think the earlier you start, like with anything, it was never an issue. I don't ever remember that even being a problem. And just like with reading music, it was never, I never, I don't remember ever having trouble reading music. So I know that I've had adult students that struggle with it, but it's like learning a foreign language. I mean, if you like for me now to learn, Russian, I'd be terrible at it. But I mean, if I was a child and started, it would be easy. So it's funny how that works with our brains.
So when you're teaching people, how do you teach them manual dexterity is two hands? How to be, I don't know what I call my fingers, but to make sure that you can play basically using all 10 digits. How do you teach them that?
We have to build up to it. I mean, you start from the very basics, with, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then, you put them on the keyboard, and I don't have this on right now, but the new methods, use finger numbers on the books and all that stuff. It's basically spoon feeding students. But what I learned, we just had the notes. We didn't have finger numbers. And it's just you learn how to associate, patterns or notes with fingers, and
That's that.
you just have to build on it. It's not overnight. you build on it, build on it.
So when you were, you'll have to excuse me, my four-legged friend of the show has walked in. You can't see him, but you might be able to see his nose soon. Um, who were your influences growing up? Who did you follow? Um, who were some of the names that you tried to incorporate into your style?
Well, I studied classical music. I grew up uh, playing gospel music. I grew up playing music in the church. I was the church organist and church pianist, through my high school years because I didn't have anybody else that could play. So it's like I told my mom and dad, Carol needs to get up here and play. Okay, Carol, go do it. And I did. And, nobody ever paid me and I didn't ask for any money. I didn't know you could get paid doing that, but
Mm, mm, mm.
I I just I tried every style and I would really study the classical pianist, of course Van Cliburn, the greats. I would listen to those, but then I listened to a lot of honky-tonk music because my grandmother played totally by ear honky-tonk music, and there were a lot of sitting on the porch on Saturday night playing fiddles, and um, I had a little bit of everything
So
growing up.
you are more than just a piano player. What else do you play?
Well, I play the organ. I grew up singing. I learned how to sing by solfege. The fancy name is solfeggetto, but we used to call them shape notes. And learned how to do re mi fa sol la ti do. So we would go to singings every Sunday, and sing, using the shape notes. We would not sing the words. We'd sing we'd either sing do or mi or fa, whatever the shape of the note was. I think it trained my brain, you know, to
I
really think in a different way.
I've never heard it put that way before. That is tremendously interesting. So gospel music or religious music is a part of your background. How did that train you to get ready for, let's say, the jazz world, the smooth jazz world?
Well, I think the ear training, because so many classical pianists I've had say to me, we can't play anything without the music. How do you do it? And it's like, I don't know. I just grew up playing by ear. I had to do that. And so the ear training that I grew up with, I guess, prepared me for everything else I faced in life with. I just I played a lot of bars. I played with bands. I played, um, I would sing and play, did a lot of piano bars in Europe, and did cruise ships. So I had to totally rely on my ear, which, is for the composition too. Without the ear training, you can't be a composer. So that was pretty vital. I'm a big believer in ear training.
What is more crucial to you, or what is your, if you had to pick a favorite, is it playing the music or composing the music?
It depends. I mean, uh, I like playing, but I guess it's more satisfying to compose for me because then I have total freedom. I get if I don't like something, it's like, oh, well, I'm the boss. I can change it. Who's going to argue with
Okay,
me?
all right, exactly, yeah,
That C's not going to argue with me that I want it to be a B.
right. Mm, mm.
So I do love composing though, because it really opens up a lot of, creative areas for me.
We talked before we started. Um, there's a time in your life when we go from you're involved in COVID, and I asked you because of COVID, and you had all of a sudden to move everything, let's say, to home. Have you now become more computer efficient? And have you? Do you find yourself doing things easier? Because now I've heard that you might travel on the road, take your laptop with you, and this way you can still rehearse or come up with a tune. So before COVID, are you less computer? And now are you more computer?
I don't think it really impacted me either way because of where I was. Um, I had already moved my studio home uh, before COVID hit, and I'd already had my studio set up and was the first tune that I did totally remote. Like I would send out a part, uh, say Jay Williams, he was a great drummer. I sent a song out to him just with piano. I said, "Hey, I want you to put some drums to this." And was Film Flight, and he did a bang up job, and he recorded them in his studio, and he sent them back to me. We transfer, and then I just dumped them down on my computer, and then I sent out, um, asked my friend Reagan Whiteside, "Hey, can you throw some flute down?" The whole thing was basically remote. Then I sent it to Paul Brown, all of the tracks in California, and he mixed it. So the entire project was remote, and that was before COVID. So I'd already become pretty efficient at doing that, and so it didn't really change much for me in
Did,
that respect.
did you miss the personal contact of being able to look through a glass and see Reagan Whiteside or see the other instrumentalist, or does it not matter to not I don't want does not matter
Yeah, I know, I
struggling up?
understand. No, I do. I miss those days of, hanging out at the studio because, I mean, it wasn't just the music, it was just always fun. I mean,
Right.
musicians are fun to be around, and as long as you're not around them too long, and there's always something funny going on and cracking jokes. They have the wildest jokes, and I mean, it's the camaraderie. It's just a lot of fun to go into a studio and record.
I have always wanted to sit. You do this all the time to sit in a session and just watch the interaction, or if you go, okay, we got to cut, we got to go to this take because we need to do more of this and more of that. And before we continue, what I want to do is play one of your selections. It's called Perfect Sunday. This may
Mhm.
not be Sunday, but we're going to hear Kel Albright, Albert having a tough day today.
It's because we were
And
talking about Gerald Albright. You got Gerald Albright on the brain.
yeah,
Yeah, I'll
but
answer to anything again. It's people call me Alpert because of Herb Alpert, but it's Albert, like
uh,
Fat Albert, if you can think of that.
I'm not going there. Let's take a listen to Perfect Sunday. Real quick, you've got a pretty hectic life, I would believe, between music and you produce and you write, you play with other people, you travel. How do you balance life?
It gets tricky. I also have responsibilities. I have a 17-year-old, and I have two adult children that are out of the house. So it's it's a lot.
I just can't imagine. That's always the other thing is like, how do you balance your life? How do you um
Well, in some ways it's great because you can hang out at the playground if you want to take it, go up
mhm,
and go sit with the kids at the playground. You have a little flexibility because I'm self-employed, but then you have to have some discipline at the same time. It's like, well, okay, that was fun. Now I need to kind of make some money. So playing at night, you know,
mhm.
is a lifestyle in the evenings, and just really just learning how to. Um, I mean, I used to have to just make a schedule and say,
Right.
okay, from 10 to 12, I'm going to do this, and that was kind of a survival. But
Mm, mm, mm. What is the inspiration for your music? Where do you get it from? What inspires you to write I'll go Sunshine Yellow?
I get inspiration from different things. Uh, the melodies will just come to me, you know. I might hear something that I think, oh, that that rhythm would be good with this. Um, I'll come up, maybe I'll play some chords, you know, on the piano, and I'll just go turn on my iPhone and just let it run and record a bunch of mumbo jumbo, and I might get 5 minutes of an idea, and you know, put that into a song and refine it, and a lot of different ways that I write. And um, I'm not somebody that's like you see in the round tables when they sit around the big table and they, you know, they say, okay, we're going to write a song, and they write it by the time they leave. And, you know, they're like Nashville songwriters, but mine's probably a little bit more sporadic, I would say, like that.
Now, you've traveled quite a bit. Put you on the spot here. What's your favorite place to go to? Favorite city?
Favorite city? Well, I traveled in Europe, and I loved going to Sweden. I was hired to go to Sweden for 3 months, three different times, and they were all in the summer. People always said, "How'd you get so lucky to come here in the summer?" And it was just it was my favorite place to go to. I went to different cities. I'd go to Stockholm or Göteborg. Went to Denmark, to Copenhagen a lot. Just the Northern Europe. I enjoyed a lot.
So you kind of have an unfair advantage. You play at night, you play for widen the berth. You play for 3 hours. If you sleep for eight, that's 11 hours. So you got like 13 hours of freedom. What do you do? Where do you go? Are you eating at 19 different restaurants? Are you shopping? What are you doing during that free time?
Well, I mean, if I'm traveling away from home, I traveled in the earlier days. I traveled with my children, especially in Sweden. They were cool with that. It's like, oh yeah, you know, bring them along. And so every day we would go out sightseeing. I mean, it's like, okay, we're out of here. We were gone all day. Then I'd go play all night. You know, I could play for, you know, however many hours. Then I'd go home, I'd get a few hours of sleep, and, you know, would go out again, go see a palace or go see the library, museum, or, you know, just go sit by the cafe and have some coffee.
So I'm willing to bet that you have numerous pictures of your travels. The question is, where's the book that goes with it so we can see all these pictures?
Well, I have books. I have photo albums full of pictures with all of that. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
don't have them on Facebook.
Oh, that's fine. I'm just trying to give you maybe another revenue source here. I'm going to sell my picture book here.
Well, you know, that's a good idea. You know, maybe when I have a few extra hours, I keep saying I'm going to write a book. A friend of mine says I should do a reality show, so I don't know. I've got a lot of options. You know,
Look,
selling photos. You know, writing stories, and
i-
you know.
if you're going to do a reality show, you and I don't know each other, okay? You just don't. I don't need to be in the reality show. That's pretty funny. Um, how long have you been playing? Because you look 22.
Well, thank you. I've been playing all my life. Yeah, I've been playing since I was 5 years old. So, you know, I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but you know,
I
I've been playing, but I've been, you know, I graduated from college and with a performance degree in piano, and then I just started right away with pop music and playing with bands and bars and traveling. And I also had children very, very early in my life. And so they just fit into the picture. They had
are,
to
are the children musicians?
know. My son is a scientist, and my daughter is has her master's in social work.
I can be impatient. I could do that. Is there is there a job title that says I just want to be a patient, have people come and talk to me about the many things that I have done?
Hmm.
All right, we're gonna like play one more song, and I am horrible. I will say it. I think this is Spanish or French. It's Mascunada.
Mascanada.
Mascunada. Okay.
Mascanada.
All right. She
It's
said it.
Portuguese. It's
Portuguese.
Portuguese.
She said it. We're gonna play it. So give this a listen. I find it amazing that back when I was really into radio, it seemed as though the musician had that one job, being a musician. They didn't have what we now call a side hustle. But
Hmm.
everybody's got them now, whether it's teaching. There's a guy on the West Coast that has wines, he has cigars. Everybody's a teacher. Um, was there a need for you to do that, or was it just something because, I mean, you can do it could take you, let's say, 3 months to come out with your entire project, and then what do you do for the other 9 months? Then you tour, but you still got time off.
Well, it's necessary. I did an interview with somebody, a few years back. It's just to to be a musician, a successful professional musician, you have to accept. I mean, you can't be a diva. I've done everything. I've played in churches for money. I've played in ballet schools. I've played as an accompanist. I've taught piano quite a bit. I've gone long stints of one time I had 50 students and I was playing at night, 5 hours a night too. I mean, you have to do whatever you have to do to make it, because sometimes the money's good and sometimes it's not. So you have to, be very, very resourceful. And I always said, I have the confidence I can create a job. If there wasn't a job and I needed some money, I would go into a school and I'd start a program. It's like these kids need, like, a little recorder program. I'll buy some recorders, the parents can pay me back, and we'll have recorder classes, and they'd pay me directly, and I did that.
Wow.
So I've always been pretty resourceful.
That's I just it always is amazing, and I think now with this streaming stuff and everything, obviously the monetary system has changed for musicians. So are you I'm going to do a complete project, I'm gonna do a 10, 12 song CD, or are you on the side of I'm gonna release one track a month for 6 months, and in month seven I will put the CD out? Which category do you fall under?
Well, I in the past I did albums, and then I would release the album. And with the changing, music industry, I started just doing singles. And like most people, I'd release one or two or three singles, and then put the album out. Like on Fly Away Butterfly, I released four singles before I put the album out. And I was just working on them at the time. So I thought, people were encouraging me, just go and put them out. People just releasing singles now. And it's still that way. I mean, a lot of
Mhm.
people aren't even doing albums, they're
Right.
just doing
Yeah.
singles.
It is funny to talk to different musicians. They all have a different plan of how they will, let's say, market their music. And with the age of computers, some things get easier, some things don't. There's some people that no longer, I'll say, associate themselves with a big time label. They try to do it on their own.
Independence.
Yeah, and it's just, I just want to see where it goes because I'm old school. Give me a CD where I can listen to all 10, 12 tracks at once, and I can kind of make my decision up on what is great, because there was always one song that, let's say, the record company that didn't put out, that I found tremendous. And being in the, say, the jazz world, you didn't have to play singles. You could play any track on the album, and it didn't matter.
Mhm.
So I always found that interesting. So
Well, that's true. I mean, on my Magic Mirror album, my one of my favorite tunes is Gemini's Sun. And I had so many people say, that's my favorite song on the album. Of course, it's never seen a lot of day with radio,
right.
but there's a couple of tunes on there that are really, if you listen to the whole album, I think are pretty good.
Do you fight for stuff like that? Do you make a call to and go, can we put this out? I really like it. Or is that decision on what to release, is it totally based upon the record company?
Well, I'm independent,
Okay.
so um, there has to be, some rationale from both sides because, you know, the record companies don't want to waste their money, and I would be prudent not to waste my money just on ego and say this is my favorite song, so we're going to
Mhm.
promote it and then have it, go nowhere and you've really wasted all your resources. So there has to be, some meeting of
Okay.
listening to wisdom from other people and getting feedback um and usually it's worked out pretty well, you know.
Well, if you need anybody to preview songs, I'm available. You know,
Okay. All
another
right.
job I've just created.
Okay. All right.
Carol, what's next? What else? What are you looking forward to doing in the near future?
Well, I am working on another album, but I'm releasing singles, Magic Mirror. I released the last single, Soli Panema, last fall. And, of course, there's 10 songs on the album. But Sunshine Yellow, now you got me saying it, is, the first single after that album. So I'm going to start, compiling songs for another album. And I don't know if I do now, an album can be 5 or 6 songs.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I don't know. I'm out to lunch. I always say I'm just going to do 5 and end up doing 10 anyway. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
So how many songs do you have in your library? If I said, can you give me 10 songs that have not been released, do you have 10 songs that you just haven't released but are kind of in your library, so to speak?
I have 10 songs that would need to be reworked. I mean, through the years, I have songs that just ended up on the shelf.
When do you decide to release those?
If there's a place or a time or a market, I mean, some of them are specialized. But I still have them, and I still think, maybe it's the time to redo that.
Okay. Lastly, our fans want to follow you. They want to know what you're doing. Do you have a social media presence? If so, what is it? And tell us what it is.
Carol Albert Music is my name, usually under Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, my website, carolalbertmusic.com, and uh, pretty much all the social media is Carol Albert Music.
Okay. All right. So what we'll do is we'll add it to our Facebook and Instagram. If there's anything new coming out, please let me know. We'll put it out on our page for everybody to hear.
Okay.
Carol, it's been a pleasure. And I will say this again, and I am not embarrassed to say this. I just love your voice right now. I did not realize you were from the South. But there's just a little bit of, I don't know what you call it. We'll call it twang, but it's
Uh-huh.
so, to me, it's so rich. And there were other things I could say, but I'll leave that alone because we'll both get in trouble. Carol Albert, once again, thank you very much for the time. And as I always say, we have learned things and we will begin to follow your career. And if you get out and you're up in the Cleveland area, let us know.
Okay.
We'll put that out there, and I'll buy you a cup of coffee.
All right. Love to
All right.
have that.
All right.
Okay. I'll
Ladies and
take you up
gentlemen.
on it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. Please join us again next week. Thank you for tuning in to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I hope you enjoy these stories and soulful melodies that grew through the doors of time. If you want to stay connected with the latest updates and episodes, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Until next time, I'm Darrell Scott.